Go get my smoke pole TV. What up, beautiful people? It's your boy Lou, Smoke Pole TV. This is episode 2. Thanks for tuning in. You are now tuned in to the flyest new gun tube channel in the country, where we deal with politics, firearms, and just fly shit. You know what I'm saying? We stay dipped and fully equipped. So we are going to go into buying my first gun. The first episode, definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's pretty exciting. We're going to go over suppressors. We're going to go over first gun choices and a couple other very informative and fun stuff. So Smoke Pole TV is all about giving information to the common man and woman. People that are just normal people that live functional lives. Not some ranger type of life, or not some hunter life, or not some fanatic life. You know, when you carry a firearm, you carry a firearm to be safer. You don't carry a firearm to be less safe. It just ruins the whole point. So when you pick a trigger system, it is one of the most crucial decisions that you can make. I'm a pretty responsible gun owner, and I've made some mistakes. You know,
I don't need no safety. My trigger finger's my safety.
you know, life's all about risk. And there's a couple things I don't risk. One of which being my balls. It's just not something that I want to make a mistake with. So you want to make sure that you buy a firearm that is fitting to your lifestyle. If you're a runner, if you're a dad and you have babies crawling all over you, if you drive all over the place and you're a truck driver and you're jumping in and out of trucks, you want to make sure that your firearm is something that fits your lifestyle. And that's what we're going to go over today. So whenever you're buying a first gun, the most important thing is making sure that that gun goes bang when you want it to, and make sure it doesn't go bang when you don't want it to. Today, I got about 5 different trigger systems. Some of them are really simple. Other ones are very complex. And after all of this, you're going to have a better idea of what might fit your lifestyle. We're going to go over some live video and just some demonstrations as far as reholstering and the advantages and disadvantages of different trigger systems. The first trigger we're going to go into is a system that is right now the most popular trigger systems and firearms that are out right now. You go to the gun shop, and 9 chances out of 10, they're probably going to put one of these in your hand. Now, it might not be all tricked out and all fancy, but this is a 320, a P229. With this firearm, it is a single action striker fire pistol. Now, there are some advantages to this firearm. This is my bedside gun. I think I told y'all before, she likes to fuck. And what I mean by that is, like, man, you touch her anywhere, you drop her. You pull up some videos on this thing, and this thing will fire no matter what. It's crazy. You have a lot of controversy about this gun here. And the reason there's so much controversy about it is because you have a firing system that has absolutely no safeties on it. No trigger safety, no external safety. And that's one of the reasons that I actually like it, personally. Now, I don't carry this thing because I appendix carry. And appendix carry, I don't want a cannon just, pointed at my family jewels. You understand what I'm saying? So the advantage does not matter where you pull this trigger. And all of these guns have been cleared and checked. They're all empty and so forth. It does not matter where you pull this trigger. You are going to have the same trigger pull every time. You can touch the top. You can touch the bottom. And this thing is going to bang. It's going to be the same trigger pull. It's a pretty light trigger pull. And you aim, you shoot, it goes. So if you get into a tussle, if you get in and out of your car a lot, if you're just an active person who's moving around, you have to think of a couple things that are just common sense. Even professionals have been documented, cops, to shoot themselves with this exact pistol. And that's why I tell my clients, this is not exactly the direction you want to go, in my opinion. I keep this right by the bed. It is an action-only pistol. It's one of those type of pistols I keep that if I grab it, it's going off. And that's what I want it to do. I don't want to think. I don't want to maneuver. I don't want to click nothing. You grab this gun, and this gun's going to go bang. And that's one of the advantages to this. The disadvantage is that carrying this all around with no type of safety, no trigger safety, no external safety, nothing. You know, I just don't trust it. I just truly don't trust it. So imagine we're appendix carrying. You run into a situation, you draw your firearm, and now you put your firearm back, right? Draw the firearm, put your firearm back. Without going too far into it, I hope you guys can understand the concern. When you're squeezing a hot dog into a hallway, you want to make sure that hallway, got enough room in it. You understand what I'm saying? You want to make sure that if she's doing some fucking, the fucking isn't on you. And that's really what concerns me about, running around all day with a pistol like this. You have no trigger safety, no nothing. And when you're jamming it into the holster, you're jumping in and out of cars. It's bending. It's just not the firearm that, in my opinion, I feel the safest with. I don't feel that this would make me feel safer if I was in a fist fight, if I was moving around, just anything that required a lot of movement. This is just not the firearm that I would want to have. It's a striker fire single action pistol. You will also find the same type of firearm in a 365, became really popular with the ladies for first time gun owners and so forth. But that's the reason I never ever suggest your first gun to have no type of safety anywhere. And that's what this is. P229, beautiful gun, but this is the bedside gun. Straight for fucking. No walking. We don't walk with this. We don't take her on dates. This stays right by the bed, and it's action if it's coming out. You understand? All right, so this next firearm is gonna be its arch nemesis. This is the firearm that I have been carrying for I don't know how many years. I mean, it does not matter how many guns I get. It doesn't matter how much or expensive firearms I get. This to me is like peanut butter and jelly. And the reason why is because I am extremely comfortable with this firearm. It's proven and it does what it's supposed to do. Now, it doesn't have the best trigger system, but it has a reliable trigger system that I know that if I appendix carry this firearm, it is safe. This is a Glock 19. The Glock 19, it does have a killer innovation slide, so there's a couple of modifications on it. Again, when you get your first gun, wouldn't necessarily suggest doing all of the fancy stuff, but it is a beautiful firearm. It is also considered a single action striker fire pistol, but reality of it is there's a couple actions that take place before it goes bang. And that's what the single action, double action terminology is all about. So you rack it, there's one in the chamber. If you notice and look close, there's a little bit of a trigger safety. There's a little trigger safety right here that has to be compressed in order for this pistol to go off. So you have to have this compressed in order for this pistol to go bang. Because I appendix carry, I like that the little extra safety on there. So when you draw or when you reholster, you draw, reholster. Amongst other activities that you do throughout the day, again, you want to make sure that you have a firearm that makes you safer, not puts you in more danger. With that secondary action, it just gives you a little bit more comfortability that nothing's going to snag on this trigger. Nothing's going to just make it go. If you only touch a little bit of it, you notice that it does not go off. You can't do it unless this button here is suppressed. And then the trigger goes bang. Beautiful firearm, and reality is this is definitely, in my opinion, a first-time gun owner's best buy. A Glock 19, it's concealable, it can be used for home defense, and it's just a great all-around firearm. It's affordable, and it just does the job. It does not have a great trigger, but it has a good enough trigger. And typically speaking, anytime that you are using your concealed carry gun in a self-defense situation, it's usually going to be within very few feet, very close proximity of where you're at. You're not even going to be aiming. It's going to be pull and shoot. So single action, but it does have a double action type of connotation or kind of style to it. Very, very great gun. Glock 19, and we'll revisit that here in a second after we go through the rest of them. The third trigger system that we are going to discuss here is a single action, double action trigger. This is a P229. It's also a Sig Sauer. Beautiful pistol. It's probably my favorite gun I got. Not the most expensive gun I have, but it is just my favorite all-around gun. If shit ever hit the fan, this is the firearm that you would see me take. Why? Because if I ran out of bullets, which this has none in, it is cleared, then, I'll bang it over somebody's head if possible. You run out of bullets, then hey, you still got something to use. This is just beautiful. It's a beautiful firearm. Now let me explain this trigger system, because this trigger system is my favorite. It is a heavy gun, so I don't typically carry this very often, but it is gorgeous. It is all steel. It is beautiful, beautiful gun. Now, it has a single action, double action trigger. What that means is, in this configuration, let's say there's one chamber, or actually, let's start from ground zero. You put the clip in, cock the firearm. It has a decocking mechanism. What this does is, if you notice now that the firearm's cocked, that your hammer's in the rearward position. The rearward. But it's back there, right? So it's in a dangerous position right now. Right now, you touch this trigger and it's gonna bang. So what they have on this trigger system, which is a little bit more complex, is a decocker. The decocker will set that hammer almost back, but it won't touch. So the gun won't fire even if you do it hard. It's just not going to fire. So now if you have one in the chamber, you have your hammer decompressed, and now you have this very strong trigger pull, right? That first one, it has to be intentional. You will feel, you see the hammer come back. One action is this, and the second action is up here. So 1, 2, that's double action. Very strong trigger pull. And the reason that that's so important is this. Let's say you use your firearm, you have one in the chamber, the hammer's cocked. At this point, your situation's safe, so you decock the pistol, you reholster your weapon. You might be excited, you might be intense, you might be running, you never know. So you might even, although you shouldn't, you might slam this thing in here, right? And with this trigger system, you have two different things that you could do to make sure that you're safe. One, you already have that very hard and strong trigger pull, right? And then the second thing that you have is you can put your finger or thumb, right there on the hammer and slide it in to make sure that this hammer does not go back, right? It is like 3 methods of safety going on in one pistol. I love it. It is amazing. This is just an amazing firearm. And then if you have to use it, no matter where the hammer is at, boom, that round chambers. Now the trigger pull is different. This is what makes this firearm so sweet. It's because now you have another round in the chamber. So your first shot must be very intentional, but your second shot is like a hair trigger. Do you see that? It is like you could push it with your pinky. Boom. It goes, that second one's like butter. It is unbelievable. And your trigger pull is what really increases your accuracy, which we'll go into in a later video. But a single action, double action trigger, man, beautiful, beautiful setup. And it's so safe because if you are a dad and if you are somebody who's really on the move quite often and so forth, this trigger system is probably, in my opinion, one of, if not the safest trigger systems that you could use. Reholstering, if you notice, you can put that thumb right here on the hammer and it gives you that security and knowing that this firearm is not going to go off until when you want it to go off. And then if it does go off, you have that first trigger pull, which is very intentional, very intentional. Second trigger pull. Oh gosh, that reset is unbelievable. Second trigger pull. Just like butter. It's unbelievable. This is a great trigger system. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it for a first-time gun owner. And the only reason why is because as a first-time gun owner, you want simplicity. You don't want to, start on level 5 of the video game. You want to start on level 1 just to kind of get a hang for what you're doing and a feel for what you're doing. But once you start to understand firearms, that single action, double action to me is just, it's an amazing, beautiful, beautiful, well laid out system. I love it. All right, for our fourth firearm. Our fourth firearm is a very special firearm. This is a Staccato C2. The Staccato C2 is iconic. It used to be considered what they call an STI. You can definitely look that stuff up. This is not necessarily at all where you want to start with your first firearm. You could buy a car with one of these things, man. But it's a great, beautiful, beautiful gun. As you see, it's very well manufactured. Just beautiful. It is also a steel frame and just an amazing, amazing firearm. Now, with this single action trigger, this is kind of like, it has what they call a 1911 style trigger. Basically, it's very similar to the single action, double action, but it does not work in double action. The hammer is already fallen and it will not come back just off of a trigger pull, or even a trigger pull when the grip safety is also compressed. This is a grip safety. This grip safety means that the gun has to be grabbed, single action trigger pull. Very light trigger pull too. The gun cycles, the trigger resets, boom, it goes bang. When it comes to carrying a single action only, there are definitely some advantages. The advantages is that no matter when, why, how you pull that trigger is gonna go bang. Sometimes you'll see some guys tape down the grip safety just because if you didn't get a solid purchase on this and your firearm is cocked and you don't get a solid purchase, you could hit this trigger and nothing's gonna happen. So you actually have this external safety and then you have this grip safety. So technically it's an extremely safe pistol, but psychologically, when you have this hammer handed back, right? And let's say your appendix carrying your Staccato, you have to draw your weapon, you disengage the safety, and then one trigger pull, very light, the gun cycles, and you're ready for action again. Boom. When you're riding around with this is the position that you're gonna ride around with it. You're gonna ride around with this firearm in a locked and loaded position, in the holster. In my opinion, I got this hammer sprung back out here. Now this is just for me. You might, and if you disagree, leave it in the comments. I totally understand, and I'm here for it all. But psychologically, I feel like I have a loaded spring right here aimed at my family jewels. Imagine you have kids and you have kids that are crawling all over you. This is that external safety. That external safety can be disengaged even when in the holster, as you just seen. Now, mind you, it's gonna still take me to hold the grip safety and that trigger to be compressed before this gun goes bang. Safety engaged. Reholster. So the disadvantage to a single action only is that you kind of have this big old cannon ready to go, cocked, locked, and rocked, ready to go aimed at your junk. Then, when it's time for action, you have to train yourself to disengage the safety, and then hit that trigger. So there's another element of training that really is required when you're using a single action only in order to actually carry it safely. Definitely not what I would recommend for your first gun, not only because of the complexity of it, but also because of the price. You could buy your son or daughter a cheap car with one of these things. But beautiful gun, beautiful firearm, just not what I would recommend for your first firearm. So that's a Staccato C2, single action only. but a beautiful, beautiful gun, and very, very accurate because the trigger pull on this is light years ahead of everything else I just showed you. It is amazing. A great gun, but definitely something that you want to get after you kind of get a little bit more advanced in the gun world and get your training level up. Training is crucially important. I'll leave some links in the bio with some places that you can go for some good training, but it's crucially important no matter what trigger system you're on. Make sure you get training. You never carry a gun to be less safe. You carry a gun to be more safe. All right, so now this final mention. This is a trigger system that you just don't often see. This is what they call an LEM trigger, a law enhancement modified trigger, in other words. And it was designed because there's certain restrictions that police officers have to have with their weapons that they use. Now, if you remember the single action, double action gun that we were looking at, the P3 or the 229, excuse me, and if you remember that double action trigger, that first trigger pull was long and very difficult, which is very nice when, again, you're carrying appendix and you want to make sure that you don't bust off the family jewels, right? With a LEM trigger, it's a little bit different, right? This is also cleared, it's empty, nothing in it, right? If you notice, you do have that external hammer. But even when I cock the gun, it doesn't go back. It stays. So now you have a round in the chamber and you have this trigger that's extremely light. But if you notice, it's double action. This is going back and your hammer's going back. The only difference is it's not that strong, hard first trigger pull. Now this is how you would carry this firearm. You would carry this firearm in this condition. When you reholster this firearm, boom. You pull out, you have this trigger pull that's super light. You have a whole bunch of take up. And that's the law enforcement part. They cannot just have certain light triggers that just bow and, they want to make sure it's intentional. So you have this light trigger pull and then you hit a wall. The light trigger pull, then you hit a wall. After that wall is hit, it is very similar to that single action only pistol. Very light. My personal opinion is that this trigger reset is terrible. It's long, it's just terrible. But each one is exactly the same. And that's kind of what is really appealing about an LEM trigger is that, yeah, you have the double action type of mechanics to it, but you have that single action, crisp, every time the same trigger pull. I like it personally. I love the trigger system. It's cool. It's nice. Definitely not what I would suggest for your first firearm, but it is an amazing trigger system and extremely accurate as well. All right. So we went over those 5 trigger systems, all of which are amazing. The one that I would definitely, without any shadow of a doubt, go with is a Glock 19. As far as your first firearm, whether you're a young lady or if you're a man, you want to go with something that's an all-around gun. It's good for home defense. It's not just one little compact pistol, which is going to be all hoppy in your hand. It's just something that's an all-around good pistol that'll do the job. It's always going to work. You don't have to clean it every time you use it. It's not some it's a tool. So definitely look into that Glock 19. Incredible firearm. Hey, this is episode 2 of SMOKEPOLE TV. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button down here. We're going to have a lot of good information concerning firearms, choices. We're going to have a little bit of range time here and there, outdoor ranges, silencers. It is going to be incredible. And we're also going to share some political ideas, some of my personal thoughts as it relates to entertainment and politics. So tune in, subscribe, SMOKEPOLE TV.
Go get my smoke pole.
I ain't with that sucker shit. Don't care who you know. I ain't never fuck with it. See, I'm a different nigga. Never know the comfort chick. To be specific with your money over a fucking bitch. After a couple flips,